first thing John noticed wasn't the sound, it was the smell. A thick, coppery scent filled the air, metallic and wet, like old pennies left in rainwater. Then came the sound, a soft, rhythmic scratching from somewhere deep in the house, like something dragging itself across rough plaster. Every hair on his body stood rigid, his muscles locking as if the air itself had turned to ice. The temperature plummeted, his breath forming ghostly clouds in the moonless dark. Something was in the room with him now. He could feel its presence like a physical weight against his chest. Then, from the absolute stillness, a single whispered word, spoken directly into his ear from inches away. It wasn't a voice he recognized. It sounded ancient, dry, and hungry. Absolute stillness enveloped the world. The power lines hung lifeless, their usual electric hum completely absent. Not a single leaf stirred in the dead air. Even the distant highway had fallen into an impossible hush. 3 days ago, the mountain town of Oakhaven, Colorado, fell utterly silent. This silence isn't empty. It's a quiet that holds its breath, heavy with the scent of ozone and damp pine needles. It watches. This is Oakhaven, population 417, a dot on the map in the Rockies, known for its fiery autumn colors and friendly faces. It's the kind of place where the air smells of pine and wood smite, where quiet, peaceful living isn't just an ideal, it's the reality. Or at least, that's the story everyone tells. For freelance writer John Miller, the remote cabin promised the perfect winter escape, a secluded sanctuary where he could finally finish his novel. His only human connections were Sarah, who ran the corner bookstore and cafe, and Mike, the pragmatic retired sheriff who handled odd jobs around town. The isolation was exactly what he sought. A quiet void where his imagination could breathe without interruption. But in the deep woods, silence has a weight all its own, and sometimes what you think is solitude isn't. The silence began not with a scream, but with an absence. John woke on a Tuesday to a peculiar, muffled stillness. He chalked it up to the deep snow outside, a logical explanation for the quiet. But when he pressed the brew button, the machine offered no gurgle, no hiss, only a hollow, mechanical click. He tapped the counter, but the sound was swallowed whole. A nervous joke escaped his lips, only to vanish into the void the moment it left. No echo followed. No resonance lingered. The air grew thick and heavy, as if the very atmosphere had turned against him. John clapped his hands violently beside his ear, expecting the sharp crack of sound, but the world remained a vacuum. The air itself felt thick and inert, as if the very vibrations were being siphoned away the moment they were born. It wasn't a silence of absence, but of consumption. His breath hitched, a cold, sticky dread taking root as he understood. Something was here, and it was feeding. John burst outside into a waking nightmare. The world moved. Cars rolled. People mouthed words. Birds flew. But all in absolute, unnatural silence. It was a frantic, impossible mime show playing out before him. His breath hitched as he raised his phone, capturing the grainy, silent chaos of Main Street. Panic unfolded in absolute silence, a uniquely terrifying phenomenon. A mother's desperate cry made no sound. A car door slammed without a thud. The air felt thick, charged with a mute, suffocating dread. It was here, amid the scent of old paper and dust, that John finally found Sarah. Her hands trembled as she scribbled on notepads. Then she shoved one word at him: library. John and Sarah entered the Oakhaven Public Library, the air thick with the scent of old paper and dust. Mike stood waiting, his face pale as parchment, and pointed a shaking finger toward the local history section. Fragments of forgotten lore stirred in his memory, each recollection more unsettling than the last. The yellowed pages of Elias Vance's journals revealed his obsession, capturing not images, but experiences themselves. He called this life's work the Archive, a collection of moments frozen in time through sound. Vance's notes grew increasingly fragmented and paranoid as he worked, filled with frantic sketches and disturbing theories. He became convinced that sound was a soul's fingerprint, that every memory left its unique resonance etched into the very air around us. He constructed a device to capture it, to preserve memories and moments in a pure, silent state. The town council, deeming him a madman, drove him into exile. His laboratory and his archival Resonator were sealed away deep within the abandoned mines outside town. A final journal entry warns, the archive must be kept in perfect silence. The previous night's minor earthquake must have cracked the old mine seal, they realized. Sarah wrote a new note, her letters jagged with tension. The scent of damp earth and ozone filled the stale air as she scrawled, "It's not stealing sound, it's recording." A single echo could unravel a stored moment, or worse, unleash them all at once. The playback switch is stuck on. John, Sarah, and Mike descend into the old Clayton silver mine, armed with flashlights and the journal. Their footsteps disturb gravel, but the sound is swallowed by an oppressive vacuum. The deeper they went, the heavier the silence became, a physical pressure on the eardrums. Then, they began to perceive them. Faint, shimmering distortions hanging in the stale air, like a mirage, but one that drifted with unsettling purpose through the gloom. As John passed through one, he flinched violently. For a fractured moment, The ghostly laughter of children and the sharp crack of a bat echoed in his skull, then vanished. They weren't just walking through a tunnel. They were trespassing through archived sounds, the spectral noise of Oakhaven's forgotten past. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and rot, as if the archive's stored moments were bleeding into the physical world. A miner's pickaxe strike from 1898 echoed faintly, while the distant laughter of a 1951 birthday party whispered from the stone. The walls felt damp and sticky to the touch, as if coated in the residue of forgotten time. They reached a cavern where past and present bled together in a disorienting, primal dread. At the chamber's heart stood a grotesque brass and crystal machine, its spinning drums and filaments illuminated by a faint, sickly glow. The air carried the sharp scent of ozone and old metal, a tangible hum vibrating through the stone floor. A massive lever shuddered violently, trapped between two positions as if fighting against some invisible force. The resonator was active, its malignant energy saturating the space with a low, bone-deep resonance. The earthquake had jarred the master lever into a feedback loop, endlessly recording the town's silence, and, in doing so, creating it, absorbing every new sound into its hungry coils. Mike, using a crowbar, tried to force the lever back to OF. The moment the metal touched the lever, sound rushed back in a deafening, chaotic roar. It was not one sound, but thousands later. Every archive noise played at once. Screams, sermons, machinery, music, arguments, births, deaths. The visual field contorted violently. Shimmering patches coalesced into fleeting, overlapping phantoms from the past. The temporal barrier shattered. A century of compressed time erupted into the cavern. And they weren't just hearing ghosts. They were immersed within them. Chaos enveloped them. John saw Sarah's mouth moving in a silent scream, her words swallowed by the roaring cacophony. Mike was hurled backward, as if struck by an invisible stagecoach, his body slamming into the damp earth with a sickening thud. Stumbling forward, John felt the journal's warning sear his thoughts. A single echo could unravel a stored moment. The air grew heavy with ozone and primal dread as he did the only thing he could think of. He doesn't attempt to power it down. Instead, he seizes the main frequency crystal and smashes it violently against the machine's housing. A piercing, high-frequency shriek erupts, then cuts off abruptly. Absolute, pristine silence descends, the kind that feels thick and unnatural. The phantoms vanish instantly, and the machine's eerie glow extinguishes, plunging the space into cold, heavy darkness. The cavern's natural sounds never returned. He turned the beam to Sarah and Mike, their mouths moving in frantic silence. The air grew heavy with the metallic scent of ozone from the dead machine. Paralyzed by the unknown, they stood frozen in the crushing quiet. But the silence is alive. A permanent state that has claimed Oakhaven. The air hangs thick, tasting of ozone and decay, a physical presence that clings to the skin. We escaped that place, that consuming quiet, that wasn't an absence of sound, but a presence. We got out. Officials labeled it a localized atmospheric anomaly before sealing the town. The sound never returned. No wind rustling leaves, no water flowing in creeks. Even our own voices vanished into this vacuum, leaving us mute. Now we exist in a world of subtitles and hastily scribbled notes. The final shot reveals John in a soundproof government chamber. A palpable dread thickens the air as he scribbles on a notepad. He slowly raises the pad toward the camera. The stark words read, "The archive is broken." But the recording hasn't stopped. It merely shifted its focus. In the deepest hours, I can sense it, attuned to the void within me. A metallic taste fills my mouth as the air grows thick and still. He looks up, his gaze locking onto the lens with a horrifying comprehension. Slowly, deliberately, he raises a single finger to his lips in a universal plea for silence. Then, a cut to pure black. An absolute, suffocating quiet holds the screen.